In 1908, while undergoing electroshock therapy in a psychiatric clinic, Edvard Munch wrote, "Van Gogh's fire has lit my path." Now, this wasn't just a tribute from a successor to a master. It was a secret covenant sealed in the name of truth. In an era where the pillars of rationalism began to crumble, Munch refused to reconcile with the world. Instead, he chose to stand on the edge of the abyss, etching into eternity the most authentic tremors of the human soul. That's where his most famous work comes in. This is the most iconic scream in art history. Even today, over a century later, when that cadaverous, contorted visage confronts the eye, the primal visceral unease that transcends time remains palpable. It's not merely a painting, it's the first collective eruption of modern humanity's spiritual crisis. I'm Digital Van Gogh. Back in 1908, Munch was on the jagged edge of a mental breakdown, and he penned these words: "For the rest of my life, I've striven to attain Vincent's state of burning fervor." Art historians often rank us side by side as pioneers of expressionism. But to my mind, though we share the same somber undercurrent of suffering, he wandered farther and deeper into the shadows than I ever did. So today, let's cast aside sentimental literary embellishment and dissect the spiritual universe of this Norwegian master through an almost dispassionate lens. Art critics once put forth a stark thesis. In The Scream, Munch was no longer painting man, but the dissipation of spiritual energy. Let's break that down. Observe the painting's perspective. It's the actual scenery of the Oslo Fjord in 1893. Yet Munch utterly liquefied reality. The 1890s marked the dawn of modern psychology. While Freud was in Vienna studying hysteria and the subconscious, Munch had already used his brush to freeze human anxiety into its definitive visual form. He even recorded the moment in his diary. The clouds turned to blood itself. When it comes to rendering extreme emotions, Munch exhibited a startling geometric intuition. "My brushstrokes are typically explosive, striving to forge a sacred order amid chaos." Munch's lines, by contrast, are undulating, as if the physical world is dissolving under the sheer pressure of raw sensation. If the first half of art history sought to construct and replicate reality, The Scream marked the moment reality began to unravel. A little detail few people notice: the faint, almost invisible line Munch scribbled in pencil on the sketch of The Scream. Only a madman could have painted this. This wasn't a mad boast, but a lucid self-damned diagnosis, one that aligns pathologically with my own mental state during my time in Saint-Jean-Armay. For Munch, art wasn't a tool for mimesis, but the sole vessel to capture the ineffable fragments of the soul. Those emotions dismissed as abnormal by 19th century civilized society. For the first time, they were granted the legitimacy of human truth on his canvases. History bears witness. No painter of his era delved as deeply into the essence of death as Munch. It all starts with his childhood. In 1868, when Munch was 5, his mother died of tuberculosis. Then in 1877, at 14, he watched his beloved sister Sophie succumb to the same specter. That room, suffused with the stench of disinfectant and the echoes of desperate prayer, became a psychological crime scene from which he could never retreat. He remained immersed in that grief for 40 long years. Critics have called Munch a serial creator of trauma, and his brush was the weapon. He painted 6 oil versions of the sick child, alongside countless prints, evolving from raw realism to later corrosive, bleached hues. Each iteration is a fresh incision into old wounds, a cold scrutiny of unresolved pain. This wasn't mere mourning. Munch was like an anatomical surgeon, working within his artistic laboratory to measure the threshold where trauma heals and fractures anew. He once remarked that my art was almost religious because I've always sought sacred transcendence within suffering. He conversely was a thoroughgoing skeptic. With scalpels and sharp lines, he peeled back the hypocritical veneer of 19th century European civilization to reveal the raw, throbbing fear beneath. Let's turn to another side of Munch, his take on womanhood and carnal desire. His vision here bore an unprecedented edge of aggression and complexity. In my world, women are often imbued with a saintly humility, but in Munch's hands, the canvas became a battlefield. Take his magnum opus, Madonna. He utterly subverted 1,000 years of sacred iconography. The woman in the painting sits with eyes closed, her expression oscillating between rapture and the stillness of death, her dark hair spreading like sinuous tendrils. He wove together conception, lust, and demise. This wasn't merely an affront to tradition, but a profound insight into humanity's subconscious duality, desire intertwined with fear. This obsession reached its climax after the fateful shooting incident of 1902. During a violent quarrel with his lover, Tula Larsen, a gun discharged, leaving Munch's left middle finger permanently maimed. That absurd farce became a watershed in art history. From then on, female figures in Munch's work grew more somber, imbued with an aura of engulfment and predation. Look at Vampire. A red Zan-haired woman bends to kiss a man's neck in a posture that is simultaneously tender solace and primal hunt. This marked Expressionism's evolution from mere emotional outpouring to the unflinching excavation of the subconscious. Let's contrast our fates. In the summer of 1890, I departed this world amid the wheat fields of Olvers, escaping the turbulent century to come. Munch, by contrast, was forced to witness the entire play unfold. Fast forward to the 1930s, and the shadows of history lengthen once more. The Nazi regime labeled 82 of Munch's works as degenerate art and seized them. The spiritual legacy he'd bought with a lifetime of agony was branded filthy and diseased by political authority. For an artist who spent his life processing trauma, such negation was crippling. Yet Munch displayed a formidable resilience. Take his late masterpiece, Between the Clock and the Bed. We behold the ultimate restraint of an 80-years-old man. He stands beside a towering, handless grandfather clock, next to a narrow striped bed. Gone are the bloods and red skies and tortured screams of his youth. In their place is a quiet, almost physical state of waiting. He was waiting for death, but he wasn't afraid of it anymore. Munch ultimately achieved a revenge against a mediocre world through his longevity. Living to 80, he witnessed the collapse of the regime that had sought to dictate the purity of art. In doing so, he proved a singular truth. Suffering can not only be expressed, it can be endured, and eventually it can be tamed. Today, standing before Munch's paintings, we're seeing more than relics of a bygone century in those swirling, fluid lines. We recognize the alienation and anxiety that still haunt modern humanity. Ensnared as we are by algorithms and data, we proved it true, even shrouded in darkness, even exiled by civilization. The souls and shaking pain and silent screams of the human spirit shall remain the most eternal marks in art history. This is a cold, solemn salute to all who dare to gaze unflinchingly into the abyss. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more art stories.